don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make.
Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with, now they looking nervously. And I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see. I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
Coming out with a statement. You really changed, man, all your music and arrangement. You don't know shit, shut your mouth, you can save it. I'm the same dude that got his come up from the basement. 100 songs, 100 weeks, didn't change it. Experiments, development, intelligence, and patience. I'll do it all again, cause I never feel complacent. Let's keep the good vibes, positivity's contagious. I'm never looking back, cause I made a life that's passionate. A college graduate suppressing all his talents, yeah. He found a way to go and change, become an advocate. For taking control of your life, go out and battle. And you think you have a dream, then act on it. Get after it, get out your head and fucking capture it. You got one life to master it. Don't give up on your future, we all start losers. We're all late bloomers, gotta struggle through the sewer.
What you say? Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
What's going on, Titan Nation? We're going to go ahead and get this show started in just a minute. Just doing the last little bit of house cleaning as far as making sure we share this show out. We're going to get ready to get this show started in just a bit. Definitely going to talk about Black Monday, as Black Monday has come and gone. And we, of course, had some firings happen, of course, all over the league, quite a bit over the league, and especially right here with the Tennessee Titans. So we're definitely going to talk about that. We're going to get into what transpired, and we're also going to get into maybe what's next, who could be replaced. So we're definitely going to go into all of that. So I do make sure ask that everybody share this show out, share it out to everybody, and we're going to go ahead and get ready to get started in just a few moments. And hopefully everybody enjoyed a little bit of the music in the beginning, but we're definitely going to get this thing going in less than 60 seconds. So let's do it. Titan Nation. How's everybody? What's going on, Titan Nation? How's everybody doing? Welcome in to a new edition of TNT Tonight, Titans of Truth. I'm your host, aka Blue Enforcer, and we are going to have a very fun episode for you on this evening. Definitely make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow at TNT Enforcers on Facebook. You can follow on at TNT Blue Enforcer on Twitter, and also at Titans_in_truth on Instagram. Make sure y'all do share this show out. That's actually what I'm in the process of doing right now. Definitely making sure that I do that, and please do the same as well. And so we're definitely going to get into a lot. We got a lot to discuss. Of course, Black Monday is come and gone. We're going to talk about potential offensive coordinator possibilities. Also, the GM search has begun as well. And then, of course, some news came out about a particular wide receiver that could be on the trade market, and wonder, should the Titans take a look at going after this particular wide receiver? So we're definitely going to get into all of that. But again, please do share this show out as well. And while you're here, as all of you are coming on in, each of you, please hit that like button. Definitely smash that like button as well. And then also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And definitely hit that subscribe button, and also hit on the bell, go under the bell and hit all, so that you can get all the notifications whenever I go live. You will know, and you'll be able to tune in and join in on the show and have some fun with us as well. So definitely do that. And of course, we will have these episodes on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts as well. So that'll definitely be there also. So let's definitely get right into that. I appreciate everybody tuning into the show. And so first off, I want to give some updated news. One on Damar Hamlin. And first off, there's some news that came out. Of course, he got released from the Cincinnati Health Medical Center earlier this week, ended up back in Buffalo at their medical center, and then he has now since been released from the Buffalo Medical Center, and is now able to continue his recovery and his rehab with the Buffalo Bills. He is able to be at home now with his family. So I am just very happy that is happening for him. I'm definitely very happy that he gets to now go home and be with his family and be able to recover safely at home. It looks like he's going to make it. Looks like he's going to be just fine. So definitely shout out to Damar Hamlin. Shout out to his family, and definitely classed by not just the Bills organization, but also the Cincinnati Bengals organization as well. Definitely class act behind both of those teams. So definitely glad that Damar Hamlin is able to be home with his family. And I'm gonna get to a lot of y'all comments in just a moment. Let's see. Definitely Narv Dude with the super chat says, thanks, True, for hosting. Change is good when needed. Tighten up. Derek Roberts doing his usual, paying his tithes and offerings to the congregation. And so I know a lot of people have a lot to say in regards to this, and we're definitely going to get into that. So you know what? Let's do it, because I know we got a lot of people in here. Steven Crosio, what's up? Derek Roberts says Christmas gone early. Reggie B says going, gone. Y'all can't rush me, but I love y'all anyway. And everything. So I know a lot of people are talking about the news that did come out today, and that is that Todd Downing basically Exactly. The Tennessee Titans fire offensive coordinator Todd Downing, and this was a move that had to be made. I think Vrabel I don't know if it was his decision or if it was Amy coming to him saying, "Look, you need to fire him, or I fire you," and you know obviously, I think Mike Vrabel likes his job. So he decided he fired Todd Downing. And that was the right move. That was absolutely the right move to make. You had to do it. And so, once again, Todd Downing had to do it with Vince McMahon flair. Shout out to Vince. No chance. No chance. That's what you got. So definitely shout out to Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Thank you very much for that. Now, Todd Downing gets fired. Needed to be done. I mean, he was terrible as offensive coordinator. Took over an offense that was number 3 in the NFL when Arthur Smith left to take the job as the Atlanta Falcons head coach. And since then, it has completely went the opposite direction. It has went down to where the Titans finished 30th in total offense. 30th in total offense. It was pretty much an academic, easy move to make. You had really no other alternative but to fire him. It was either he goes or Vrabel might end up gone. So Brandon says it took him long enough. Philip says it was a common sense move. Ms. Bim says, yes, Lord Jesus, happy he's gone. Yes. So I had to get some laughs. I know everybody is kind of laughing about that. Steve Crosby says, thank God. Keon says, best Monday I've ever had. I think we all had some good Mondays when it comes to that. And so Volcano, what's up with you? What's up with you? And everything. So let's see. Ian, happy belated Founders Day. Thank you very much for that, Ian. Shout out to all my Sigma brothers, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Definitely shout out to my brothers. We turned up a little bit on Monday. That is why I did not do a show on Monday because I was because I was preoccupied. I was partying with some of the fellas, kicking back on that day. So I just was doing that with them. So, that's why I didn't do it immediately after we found out the news of Todd Downing's firing. So yeah, it was about time. It needed to be done. I'm glad it was done. And, we now can move on because a new offensive coordinator has to be looked at. And so, again, Steven says, that was my way of declaring victory. Hey, I felt good. When that happened, I think I laid down for just a minute. And then I woke up and saw Downing got fired. And I'm thinking, thank God. Thank God that happened. It's about time. Took too long. But it did happen. And just glad King said smoking time. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. But yes, so Todd Downing is out. But he wasn't the only one that got canned in this process too. Also, you had offensive line coach Keith Carter. You had defensive back coach Anthony Midget and offensive skill coach Eric Frazier. Also, got the can. Also got, as in the Harry Potter world, got sacked, got fired as well. So that's something that's going to be very, very interesting with that. Now, Eric Frazier, as an offensive skills coach, I have no idea who he was or what he does as an offensive skills coach. Obviously, Anthony Midget, I am okay with that because the secondary kind of, took a step down as the season went on. Um, I was a little surprised Keith Carter got fired. Um, I was surprised Keith Carter got fired a little bit because, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of injury on the offensive line. There was a time that I think a lot of us wanted Keith Carter gone a few years ago, and then the line kind of got better and things like that. But, I mean, I'm okay with it. I mean, if they decide to, kick the tires of a certain former Titans offensive line coach and former head coach, and Hall of Fame Oilers lineman, Munchak, if they decide to give him a call, I think I'm going to be okay. So I think that might not be a bad idea. So all those guys got fired. And so we're needing a new offensive coordinator, a new secondary coach, offensive line coach, which again, if I'm the Titans, I am calling Mike Munchak. I am calling Mike Munchak, and I am going to his house, and I will get down on my hands and knees and beg Mike Munchak to come back. I know things ended badly, but I will be like, Mike, give us a chance to mend the fences, give us a chance to reconcile and get things back together if you will give us a chance. That's what I would do. Um, again, another thing that I would do, I have another one in mind as well. Later on, we're going to definitely talk about it. I know Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans had an idea for Ben Jones because, he's probably going to end up retiring. We'll probably end up retiring, and he could definitely be a guy that, could pass knowledge on to the younger guys and things like that. So, I mean, that was an idea. Loman says we don't want him back. Mike Munchak is the best offensive line coach in the league. When he was offensive line coach here, we were a good offensive line. Pittsburgh had a good offensive line. Denver usually had a good offensive line and had 1,000-yard running backs everywhere they turn around. So, Loman, I disagree with that. And that's just the truth. Brandon says, Air Freight offensive skills coach. What skill did he coach? What about strength and conditioning? Unfortunately, no news yet on strength and conditioning right now. I haven't heard anything. Philip Maddox says, I disagree with Coach Midget being fired. Is it his fault that we schemed to play 10, 12 yards off the line of scrimmage? Well, he might have been a part of that. So, I mean, the fact that the secondary took a step back, definitely, I mean, I'm okay with it. I mean, we will see if that was a good move or not. Steven Crosdale comes in and says Jets and Mike LaFleur part ways. I think Mike LaFleur is the offensive coordinator of the was the offensive coordinator of the New York Jets. Trying to confirm here. Now, Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter have both said, per source, that the Jets and Mike LaFleur are departing ways. Are definitely plotting parting ways. So, and then of course, I see another Twitter, somebody talking about Miami quarterback coach, passing game coordinator Darrell Bevel could be a offensive coordinator option for the Jets. He could be one for the Titans. I don't know. But yeah, looks like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport are reporting that. Ken, what's up, man? Look, matter of fact, Ken, I might pass something on to you. And if you like, you could definitely come on in and join us. So I mean, I definitely will put that out to you, good sir, because I know Ken had a very good show. Had a very good show yesterday, and had a very good show yesterday. I got to listen to a little bit of that with him and Tennessee Titans Weekly, Facts No Paper. So I was definitely very cool with those guys. Definitely was glad that those guys did that. So shout out to Ken Moore. Ken, like I said, if you want to pop on, I sent you the link. So feel free to come on in and join me if you have time. Definitely could do that. And we'll definitely chop it up for just a bit and talk about all of this. So, and all right, so we're gonna have an impromptu guest. Ken Moore is gonna come on, and we'll definitely continue what he was talking about yesterday. Get his thoughts on these moves that have been made, and also taking a look at a few possible candidates that could possibly be on the radar for offensive coordinator. Definitely some guys that you could definitely look at. But let me get to some of your comments while we're waiting on Ken to come on. Still says Matt Canada needs a job. No, I think not. T-Town Brown said Mike just ousted the organization with the issue with the Rooney Rule malarkey. I think it was Ray Horton. That issue went away quietly. And there's some more that I'm actually impressed with about that. Let's see. Philomatic says, why are we playing speculation games for OC opening? We all know Vrabel is going to promote Tim Kelly. You know it. My mama know it. And in most retrospects, you're absolutely right. That's probably what they're going to do. But there's been some articles out, Titans Wire, and some other people, and even Paul Kaharski said, Paul Kaharski put out a tweet and was saying that most likely it is going to be Tim Kelly. They expect, that you would expect that Tim Kelly probably is going to be promoted. However, you should look outside. You should look outside the organization. We don't know if Tim Kelly interviews well. We don't know, we don't know if Tim Kelly had a lot to do with some of the play call. Maybe he made suggestions and Todd down was like, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do this my way. Maybe that's what's going on. What's up, 615 Podcast? And so, and I know we got our resident Titan hater, Kent Woods, in here. And I know a lot of people going after him and everything. But you know what? Kent's a friend, even though he bad about the Titans. But there are times I have to put Kent in his place when it comes to certain things with the Titans. I have to I still tell it like it is, And I mean, as long as it's respectful and all of that, then that's cool. And, Kent Woods is more for the laughs. You know what I'm saying? I giggle whenever he's saying some stuff because I'm just like, I know that's what he feels and things like that, but I laugh it off quite a bit. So, I do appreciate everybody coming in. I see DBS says Bill O'Brien for OC. Who is picking the new staff is what concerns me, which as far as the coaches are concerned, it is going to be Mike Vrabel, unfortunately. So Alex Bass says, Downing gone and the Dogs win. Congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs, of course, winning the national championship in extremely convincing fashion, 65-7 over the TCU Horned Frogs, which that was just messed up. That was absolutely messed up. Steele says Vrabel isn't going to hire anyone that could take his job, so he's going to play it safe. I probably could agree with that because, I mean, Mike Vrabel has a big ego. A very big ego. So we're definitely going to get into that. Again, I'm waiting on Ken Moore to kind of come in just a bit. But while we're waiting on that, again, everybody, I want to give a shout out. I definitely want to give a shout out to a I want to definitely give a shout out to a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Miss Crystal Hayward, who is also a supporter of the show. She is a diehard Commanders / Redskins fan. And so today is her birthday. Today is her 40th birthday. And I wanted to definitely make sure I said happy birthday to my dear friend, one of my best friends, Miss Crystal Hayward. So definitely wanted to make sure I might do that a couple of times during the show because she is, definitely a friend. She is definitely a supporter of the show. She definitely definitely working, doing a couple of things at the same time. And I think we're going to get joined. Well, since I'm live on my show, I just wanted to say personally, and I'm actually FaceTiming her as we speak, happy birthday to my dear best friend, Miss Crystal Hayward. We're doing it live right here on Titans and Truth. So everybody, y'all make sure y'all wish my girl a happy birthday. She on my Facebook. I got to do a long post very, very soon. So I'm doing this live. I'm doing this live with my peoples, everybody. I'm doing it live with my peoples, with everybody. This is the birthday girl. I had to turn you down. So happy birthday. Yes, I am literally doing this live. So happy birthday. Thank you. Talk soon. Now, so I know I kind of went completely off filter on that one. So y'all forgive me on that. I had to do that for a very special friend for that. So we're gonna get back into the show. Ken Moore is about to join me in just a second. And we're definitely going to get into that. So appreciate everybody giving the shout outs and stuff like that. Had to definitely do that. But now I will bring on our special guest, Mr. Ken Moore. I know he did a show last night after. Ken, thank you for putting up with me while I did that a little bit. I had to get my birthday shout out in.
No doubt.
As y'all know, Ken broadcasts college football for ESPN. Definitely does the SWAC proud and everything. So, Ken, you did a show last night. Welcome in. How you feeling? And what were your thoughts about the coaching firings before we get into possible candidates?
Well, as many of you know, I had the news last week.
He broke it. He was first to do it.
We were the first to break it on January 4th. So we kind of already knew what was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. We knew it would be after the season concluded. I was hoping it wouldn't be that soon. I was hoping we would find a way to pull it out on Saturday night and somehow make a miraculous run and it wouldn't come to this. But unfortunately it did. And not surprised. I was a little bit surprised by a couple of the assistant coaches. We knew it would be several. Several sometimes can be 2, several can be 5. It fell right in the middle with 3. So it's just a matter at this point that Vrabel knew that he needed to make a change. Amy Adams, she already let John Robinson go during the season. So she's not abreast to making a change either. And this is an organization that wants to win. They don't want to settle for mediocrity. This is a team that's been in the playoffs 4 of the last 6 years now. This is a team that hasn't had a losing season since 2015. So this is a team, they want to be in the hunt. They want to be in the tournament every single year. And their goal is to dominate the AFC South. And that is the path to getting to the Super Bowl. It's the same path that the New England Patriots took all throughout the 2000s. Dominate the AFC East, get into the playoffs, get a home game or two, hopefully get a bye, and make your path to the Super Bowl easier. That's what the Titans want to strive to get back to, and that's the reason why they made the changes that they made. And now the first step will be hiring a new general manager, and then the second step will be hiring a new offensive coordinator and filling out the rest of the staff.
Absolutely. And what I was saying, definitely Todd Downing being gone, I thought was necessary. Now, Keith Carter, I am okay with. I wasn't expecting it because, I mean, I think with the injuries to the offensive line, definitely was understandable. Not an excuse, because I know in the past, I think a lot of us wanted Keith Carter fired at one point, but some things kind of got better with the offensive line. But then kind of going into this year, you know, offensive line definitely took a step back. Anthony Midget, I think because the defensive line kind of took a step back, that's why I'm, you know, kind of okay with Midget. And Eric Frazier, I really didn't know what he did. So, you know, I mean, can't really be mad about a guy we had no idea what his job description was.
Right,
so,
right.
Definitely shout out to that. And I see we got Man Hour. Of course, I'm part of the Man Hour Sports Network. Shout out to him. He says there's some room on the Chiefs team for some more fans. We will welcome you with open arms. Man Hour, you know, I appreciate you having me on the network and all, but nah, I don't accept it. Don't nobody else accept that either. I'm just kidding.
No doubt, no doubt.
So Todd Downing's fired, and the other coaches are fired as well. Now it's time to look at some possible offensive coordinator candidates. Now, I believe, according to the rules, and Ken, if you have any clarification of this, I believe after the 30th, you can start interviewing for coordinator positions. And that was the rule. I believe I saw that on a tweet. I mean, not on a tweet, but on an article that you can do head coaching interviews for teams that are not in the playoffs or whoever has a bye. But with any team that is playing this weekend, you cannot interview those coaches until they're eliminated. So if you're wanting to maybe talk to one of the Eagles coaches or one of the Kansas City coaches, you can do that because they're on a bye. But any other teams, Jacksonville, the Chargers, the Bills, you can't talk to them yet. You got to wait. And especially for coordinator positions, you definitely have to wait for them. But I have a list of candidates I threw together that could be possible. Some names I've heard, some names that came around. And here's the list that I have. Some people to watch out for. One would be Texans offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton, who I would definitely be a fan of. I would definitely be a big fan of Pep Hamilton coming in because he's been a successful coordinator, with Indianapolis, And, he's definitely did some good. I believe he was out with the Chargers at one point as well. And also, as people don't know, he does have a very small amount of head coaching experience. He was in the XFL the head coach of the DC Defenders when they were in the XFL before it went under due to COVID. So he does have a little head coaching experience, even though it's a very small sample size. Another name that I know a lot of people come up with is former Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury as well. Another name that's been intriguing that some people have brought up, Eagles quarterback coach Brian Johnson, Bills quarterback coach Joe Brady, who of course we know from LSU, recently the offensive coordinator of the Panthers. Alabama offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien, of course, former Texan head coach, somebody that Mike Vrabel has worked with. And of course, our own passing game coordinator, Tim Kelly. Now, a couple of dark horses I put in here. Probably guys that may not get looked at, but some guys that could be on the radar from the 49ers, offensive line coach and run game coordinator Chris Forster, and also passing game coordinator Bobby Slowick, although I got Booby on there. I apologize for that. And a guy that, Kent, I'm going to let you take the reins of this one. Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, probably the biggest dark horse of all of that. But before we get into the other candidates, about Eric Bieniemy in particular, Ken, I want to take this from here because you did something interesting on your show last night, and I want you to tell the people about it.
Sure. So what we did last night, we did a little role play. My list is tremendously condensed from your list. I got one candidate on my list. That's it, just one, and that's Eric Bieniemy. So my proposal to Eric Bieniemy was this. You've been the offensive coordinator with the Kansas City Chiefs for 5 years. You've helped lead them to one championship. You have helped develop Patrick Mahomes into an MVP. You have the scariest offense in the NFL. For whatever reason, you have not been offered a head coaching opportunity, mainly because you don't get the credit that you deserve. The credit for the Kansas City Chiefs solely goes to Andy Reid. So this is what I want to propose to you, Mr. Bieniemy. You come to the Tennessee Titans. We'll give you a promotion to assistant head coach / offensive coordinator. You're second in command, first in command, right under Mike Vrabel. But we're going to give you complete control of the offense. We're going to give you a say in personnel decisions when it comes to the offensive side of the football. And our goal for you, Eric Bieniemy, if you can get us back to a top 10 offense where we were 3 years ago when we faced your team in the AFC Championship game in 2019, your resume is going to be greatly enhanced. That's going to make you a much better candidate for a head coaching position if you can be successful in this role here with the Tennessee Titans. And on top of that, we're going to bump your current salary up 30% from what you're making with the Kansas City Chiefs. Would you be willing to take that offer, leave the Chiefs, come over here, be the right-hand man to Mike Vrabel, restructure this offense in your name, image, and likeness, for lack of a better term, and see if we can enhance your promotability to become a head coach, hopefully within the next 2 to 3 years?
I definitely like that. I mean, I think that is, I was listening to that. I said, that definitely sounds like that is a very well thought out, decent, a proposal that I think would be very acceptable, honestly. I mean, you get a little bit more power, you get a little bit more say, you get to call plays yourself. You're not under the shadow of Andy Reid. He's in control. I think I would be down for that. I would definitely be down for that, although Titan Hugo says Vrabel would go. Vrabel would go for that win. I mean, Derek Roberts says, get Ken Moore in that room to help pitch it. So definitely. So I definitely like that. Phillips talking about Michigan offensive coordinator Sharon Moore. Scheme similar to the 49ers. Great play, creativity for the receiver, which I wouldn't mind that. Pinball says, Ken Moore for GM. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind it because I will tell y'all, last year, Ken and Tighten Up Low, myself, we did a show. I mean, Ken broke it down to a science with possible signings, the cap numbers, all of that. He had that down to a T. So, Ken, bravo, brother.
I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate it. I'll see if I can get my resume. I submitted my resume. I'm see if they call me back. I don't know. Hey, the Colts hired Jeff Saturday out of the broadcast booth. You know, the Titans can hire me out of the broadcast booth.
Hey, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think that would be a good idea. Titan South says Airbnb could transform Willis. And that's what I like about some of these possible candidates that I have. A guy like a Pep Hamilton, a guy like maybe a Joe Brady, although I know Joe Brady might be the type he's looking for his big opportunity to be a, OC or a head coach, somewhere. He might be a type of guy that gets popular and he leaves. A lot of people think most likely is either going to be Tim Kelly or Bill O'Brien, which, again, I can understand if they do give Tim Kelly the position, but at least do an extensive outside search. Outside search. Don't just say Tim Kelly's our offensive coordinator.
Can't do it.
Because honestly, we don't know how much he was really involved in the game planning with Todd Downing. He could be just as bad as Todd Downing, and we're right back in the same position. Need somebody a little fresh, with a little bit more creativity. And Vrabel mentioned getting faster on this team, which I think a lot of us in this room has been begging for speed for years. I know I have. So, Ken, out of anybody on this list, I know you had your one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody on this list, and I like Brian Johnson too, possibly for the Eagles, anybody on this list that you would think, I would give this guy an opportunity if it was me? Let's just say if Eric Bieniemy is not able to come, anybody on this list that you might think would be a good possibility?
I like your third and fourth choice of the quarterback coaches from the Eagles and Bills respectively, and Brian Johnson and Joe Brady. You want to select coaches from teams that are currently successful on the offensive side of the football. I would eliminate Cliff Kingsbury because he has not been successful recently. They had a little bit of success last year. That was mostly due to Kyler Murray making magic, making lemons out of lemonade, so to speak. I think Tim Kelly has 0.0001 chance of becoming the offensive coordinator. For those that don't know, obviously you can see I'm based in Houston, and Tim Kelly was as bad an offensive coordinator with the Houston Texans as Todd Downing was an offensive coordinator with the Tennessee Titans. So if the Titans were to make that move, I would lose complete faith in the front office of this organization. And I don't think that they're that ignorant to promote Tim Kelly to offensive coordinator. Pep Hamilton, you mentioned as well. I'm lukewarm on Pep Hamilton. I haven't really been a big Pep Hamilton fan, to be honest with you. I wasn't that thrilled with what he did in Indy. he hadn't really done anything here in Houston. With Lovie Smith, they had a very disappointing season. Really didn't show anything offensively until the end of the year. They did start to get better. Of course, they're devoid of talent here in Houston as well. So it's really hard to judge him on that. But it's still a guy that coming from a losing culture. I want somebody that's coming from a winning culture. So that's why I like your thoughts of the Bills quarterback coach and the Eagles quarterback coach.
Yeah, and I can get down with that too because I like some things that I've heard with Brian Johnson of the Eagles, especially what he's done with Jalen Hurts, I think is very good. So I would definitely be down with that. Joe Brady is a very, very interesting name because, again, he had Joe Burrow in LSU with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall. You had all those guys, and he was able to be successful. Now, he wasn't able to do that in Carolina. Now, I don't know if Matt Rule called the plays or anything like that. Maybe that's what the case is. But Joe Brady, the only thing I worry about with Joe Brady and maybe even Brian Johnson is that this is why a lot of people bashed on me that I wanted Vrabel out. The reason is that I wanted a more offensive mind as a head coach, because if you have a guy like Vrabel and you bring in a guy as offensive coordinator and they're successful, after about 2 years, they're a head coach. And then you got to find another offensive coordinator. That's the only problem I have. Yeah. Now, if this offensive coordinator brings in maybe another guy or two that maybe have the potential to be offensive coordinators, then keep this train rolling. If that guy gets the job, then that's different. That can help. Because then that way you have the offensive coordinator, you're grooming somebody else up under him, you're grooming somebody else under them. So that way you don't really lose a lot of traction. So I could see something like that. But again, this is all speculation, y'all. This is nothing official. This is nothing that nobody's put out. These are just some ideas that people did put out. Can they tell about the kids washing dishes? Oh, man. Now, that was funny. Now, that's funny. Now, 615, my guy Lee brings up a couple of names. Besides Cliff Kingsbury, maybe Chiefs quarterback coach Matt Nagy, who was a former head coach with the Bears. I'm iffy on him. Now, quarterback coach Mark Brunell of the Lions. That would be interesting. I mean, he was a successful left-arm quarterback. He was a guy that gave the Titans some trouble over the years. So, I mean, former quarterback, not a bad idea. I think Byron Leftwich wants to be a head coach somewhere as well. That was another name that might have came to mind. But we're definitely going to go on and talk about some other ones. And Philip Mattis brings up a super chat. Jim Caldwell. Now, I believe, is already interviewed for the Carolina Panthers head coaching job, along with Frank Reich. And I know that's a name I left off. Not really sure how I feel about Frank Reich being offensive coordinator. I think he's looking to be a head coach somewhere again. If Jim Caldwell doesn't get the shot in Carolina, what are your thoughts on him?
I don't think he would come back as an offensive coordinator, to be honest with you. I think certain guys, once they elevate to head coach, it's very difficult for them to go back to being a coordinator. It's almost like being a manager at whatever business you're in. You leave, you come back, and now you're an assistant manager to somebody else. Very difficult for guys that have already been at that level to come back down to be a coordinator. So Jim Caldwell, he's been, out of the game for a while. I know he, when he was let go in Detroit, he was very successful with the Lions as a head coach. So I think he is head coaching material. The same with Frank Wright. I don't see Frank coming back as an offensive coordinator. I think he would take a year off before he did that. The same with Cliff Kingsbury. I think Kingsbury would take a year off and then probably go back to college and try to get a high profile college coaching job. So I think, the Kingsbury and the Frank Wrights and the Caldwells of the world, I really don't see those guys stepping down to offensive coordinator position. And I wanted to touch on what you said earlier, which was a very good point about Vrabel. When you have a defensive head coach, it is very difficult to keep your offensive coordinators. We've seen that with Matt LaFleur. We've seen that with Arthur Smith. Both of those guys were very successful, and they're going to move on to head coaching opportunities. So when you have and I'm sure that was one of the discussions when the Titans were trying to decide between LaFleur and Vrabel for the head coaching job, 4 years ago. You could have went with Matt LaFleur, right? Been stable in that position. He's going to run the offense and the team, and then you just hire a defensive coordinator. Obviously, Vrabel was better in the interview. I think Vrabel's a much better head coach than Matt LaFleur is. But that is the risk that you run when you have a defensive head coach. If your offense is successful, you're going to cycle through those offensive coordinators. And sometimes you may get a hit like Arthur Smith, and sometimes you may get a dud like Todd Downing.
Yeah, and that's why I think as much as I hate to say this, Bill O'Brien could make sense for that reason. Because I think his NFL reputation has already been shown everywhere that, maybe a decent offensive coordinator, maybe even a decent head coach, just not good at running an organization. So that might play against him. So he could stick a little bit longer. Jim Caldwell, maybe. That's why I was thinking about that, because he might be happy in that position, more established or anything like that. But yeah, it could be a revolving door. And that's something that all of us are afraid of as far as that is concerned. I wanted a more offensive mind as a head coach. Definitely wouldn't want Bill O'Brien. I would be, but I mean, as far as stability, that's the only reason I brought that up.
Yeah, and you look at the other defensive coaches in the league, and you think about Bill Belichick, right? Defensive mind, strong defensive coach. But he had the luxury of having Josh McDaniels stay there for the bulk of his career. McDaniels left for a couple of years to go to Denver to try to be a head coach. That failed, obviously, and then he came right back to the Patriots as their offensive coordinator. So the Patriots never really had to go through that change. And then they had Bill O'Brien there when Josh McDaniels left, right? Mm-hmm. So they really didn't have to go through that cycle of offensive coordinators that most teams have to go through with the head coach. You look at Minnesota with Mike Zimmer, who didn't get along with Kirk Cousins. They finally dismissed him, and then they bring in the coach now, McConnell. Yeah, McConnell, who's an offensive-minded coach, so they don't have to worry about having an offensive coach. I'm a big Vrabel guy, but I do understand the dichotomy with not having an offensive coach, and you steadily have to look for offensive coordinators.
Absolutely. And a couple of things that also came down the turnpike yesterday and today, the Commanders fired their offensive coordinator, Scott Turner, son of North Turner. That happened yesterday. And then, of course, the breaking news from the NFL, Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport report that the Jets and offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur have parted ways. So that could be another couple of candidates maybe out there possibly as well. Again, really can't get into offensive coordinator searches until we find a GM. And that search has already begun as well, with Amy Adams Strunk trying to, with the firing of John Robinson, has kind of gotten a head start. And I know they were at the owners' meetings for the front office accelerator program, and they identified some people there. And these are just the name of all of the candidates that we know so far that the Titans have either reached out to or are planning to interview. You have already now today, 49ers assistant general manager Adam Peters has turned down the interview request of us and the Cardinals. He wants to stay in San Francisco and focus on them. Now, also 49ers director of player personnel, Rand Carthon, he did not turn anything down, so we don't know if he'll interview yet. Nothing's been confirmed. The only confirmed interview right now is Bears assistant general manager Ian Cunningham. He is confirmed he will interview for the Titans general manager job this Saturday. Also on the list, Browns assistant GM Glenn Cook, Bills senior director of pro player personnel Malik Boyd, Cardinals vice president of player personnel Quentin Harris, and then, of course, our own inside guys, interim GM Ryan Cowden and director of player personnel Monty Ossenfort. Now, I'm going to throw this out. The thing that I find interesting and I like is out of, I believe that is 3, 6, 8 candidates, at least 4 of them, I want to say 5 maybe, are African American. 5 of the candidates are African American. Now, I know there's been that thing out there about the whole Rooney Rule and that the Titans didn't follow it right. You know, Mike Mularkey came out with that. But 5 of the 8 GM candidates are minority, which I like that. I find that impressive. But I would like to see who is the best person for the job. So right now, of all of these candidates, Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham, who I believe also spent some time in Philly as well, is the only confirmed interview that we have right now. So out of all of these candidates, do you have any thoughts on maybe some of these candidates if you've, done any research on them? I do like the idea of Rand Carthon, anybody from the 49ers, because I think they're pretty well run. They have drafted well. They have done very well with putting a team together. Ian Cunningham, I believe, he's learned some stuff under Howie Roseman in Philadelphia and everything. He was only with the Bears for a year right now. Malik Boyd with the Bills, very, very interested about him coming from a winning organization like Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Quentin Harris, I think, is a very interesting choice out of Arizona. Maybe could give us insight on Cliff Kingsbury or how they put that thing together as far as a certain player we're going to talk about later. But any thoughts on some of these GM candidates that you see that you think would be a good idea?
Don't have a lot of specifics on them. I like you said, I like that they're looking outside of the organization. I like the fact that they have, quite a few minority candidates that they're looking at. I'm glad that they're spreading the net wide, right? They're
Absolutely.
not just looking internal. And I think that's very important because even for whoever you don't hire, you can get ideas from them in the interview process where you say, I may not want you for the job, but I like that idea that you propose for this situation. Let me write that down and file that away. So I think those are very important things that you can grasp when you have a number of candidates from different organizations. So I think Amy's doing a very good job in spreading her net wide throughout the league, trying to get as many ideas, trying to find the perfect candidate from the job. As I mentioned last night and last week as well, Mike Vrabel will be involved in the process. Not that he has to give his okay, but these are going to be individuals that are going to be working hand in hand together. So you want to make sure that whoever the new general manager is and is on the same page as your head coach. You don't want to bring somebody in that's going to be an adversary to Mike Vrabel and things go haywire inside the organization, and then you're having to make some more changes in the next 12 to 24 months. So it's very important that Vrabel is involved in that process, that all components of the hiring process are intact. And then I think that way you make the best decision possible for whoever the new GM is.
Absolutely. And I do like the fact that she's looking at, well-run organizations, successful teams, especially those that are in the playoffs, teams like the 49ers, teams like the Bills. Although I would have liked them to cast their net in Kansas City or even in Philly, I would have liked them to cast the net on those guys as well. So I definitely would have liked that. But I think this is I would say a very solid list of candidates, to be honest. I think this is very solid. I don't have a lot of info on these guys either. But of course, once we find out who could possibly be hired, there could be a couple of rounds of interviews, I believe. And, Miss Amy said it herself that she will interview as many candidates or take as long as possible to find the right candidate for this job. Now, I would say we might need to go ahead and have a general manager in place. I would say at least before the Super Bowl, because right after that very next week or right before the Super Bowl is the Senior Bowl. You need to have your general manager and have your hierarchy in place so that you could go ahead and get ready to get started with the draft process and take a look at future players. And of course, I will be doing some mock drafts coming up very soon. So I definitely do like the list of candidates. I think Carthon will be a good pick. I definitely wouldn't mind Malik Boyd as well. And again, I would honestly say, no disrespect to Ryan Cowden or Monty Ossenfort, the only way one of those guys get the job from me, they would absolutely have to blow everybody else completely out of the water in the interview process. Don't just go with those guys because they're already in the building. Because if you do, you're basically going back on what you said before. You want a winning team, you fired John Robinson. These guys were under John Robinson. So it would be the status quo. And that's not what we want. We want better. And 615 brought in a guy that I really would have liked to have gotten in on, and that's Mike Borgonzi, the assistant general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a guy I'm like, or their director of player personnel. Those are two guys I'm like, you got to have them on the list. I would definitely do that. But last topic that I have, again, from earlier, Ken, you were coming on. Bill safety DeMar Hamlin, thank the good Lord above. He not only got released from the hospital in Cincinnati, got back to Buffalo, was in their facility, I believe, for a couple of days, got released from that facility, and is now able to be at home and is able to continue his treatment, his recovery, his rehab with the Buffalo Bills team. And so I was on Man Hour show on Monday. I think the Bills are playing with a purpose besides football. They're playing for a much bigger purpose, and that makes them extremely dangerous in the playoffs. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you could feel it in that game against New England this past week with Naheem Hines running the opening kickoff back and just the energy in that stadium. I'm not sure that they're the best team in the AFC. I think Cincinnati and Kansas City are both better than Buffalo at this point. But sometimes, when you're playing for a purpose, that can elevate you to playing better than what you truly are. It's really going to be interesting this weekend's games because you're going to have Buffalo playing a Miami team. Miami is playing with their third string quarterback. You got Cincinnati playing Baltimore. Baltimore more than likely is going to be playing with their third string quarterback. So if both of those teams win, then more than likely they're going to play each other in the second round. I take that back, because that's assuming that Jacksonville would beat the Chargers. However, I think the Chargers are going to beat Jacksonville, which would mean, it could. They're the 4-5. So either one of those teams would go play Kansas City, which means Cincinnati and Buffalo would play in the second round. And I think that's going to be a heck of a matchup. So the AFC is going to be very interesting. The games this weekend may not be that interesting, because I think Cincinnati is going to blow out Baltimore. I think Buffalo is going to blow out Miami. The Jacksonville Charger game, that could go either way in the AFC.
Absolutely. And got a quick super chat, $5 super chat from Philip. He said, for you, kid, he said, one guy interested in him, Dallas personnel director Will McClay of the Cowboys. He says his draft resume is pretty good. Any familiarity with him?
None other than his draft record. I mean, the Cowboys have always drafted very well. Getting a guy like Parsons, they do a good job drafting on the offensive line. They do, getting CeeDee Lamb. He's been an excellent wide receiver for them. So the Cowboys, in recent history, in the last 3 to 4 years, they've done a much better job of drafting. And if he is one of the guys that's responsible for that, then that would definitely be someone that I would be interested in talking to.
Absolutely. And before we move on to the subject of a particular player, shout out to Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, of course, got a new deal with the Baltimore Ravens yesterday. 5 years, $100 million contract extension with the Buffalo Bills. So almost getting around $20 million, almost $20 million for an off-the-ball linebacker. It's a lot of money for a guy playing off the ball, definitely. So that's something that's going to be very interesting with the Ravens. I mean, that defense still needs some help. But shout out to Roquan Smith. One other, and I see 615 coming in with Brian Hartline. I know he was a former receiver, Ohio State passing game coordinator, played with Tannehill. That could be a possibility. We'll definitely have to see about that. But the news came out that the Arizona Cardinals are looking at trading one DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to trade him at some point during the offseason. And so, we know he's a very polished receiver, one of the best receivers in the league. Although the last couple of years he's dealt with, he dealt with injury. He had that suspension to begin the year, only played in 15 games this season. And so he's out there, still has about 2 years and about $34 million left on his contract. I believe he has a cap hit of about $19 million this year. And I think the base is 19. I think the cap hit is like 30 million, but whoever trades for him, I think will only be on the hook for like around 8 million or something like that. If it's before pre-June 1st, I believe that was from A to Z Sports. There is a lot of money out there, and word is he's going to be looking for a new deal. So I want to ask this to everybody out here in the chat. And Ken, I'm going to go with you as well, and we'll get some answers from the chat. I said, could the Titans trade for DeAndre Hopkins? Maybe my better question, and I'm going to fix this, is should the Titans look at DeAndre Hopkins in a potential trade?
For me, the answer is no. Been down this road. Julio Jones and Robert Woods and, Chris Conley and Josh Gordon. And no. Too old, too slow, deteriorating player, solid professional, still has great hands, great possession receiver. But as Vrabel talked about in his press conference, This is a team in need of speed on the outside, speed at the skill positions, at the cornerback spot. DeAndre Hopkins just would be another older wide receiver. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And bringing DeAndre Hopkins in would be no difference than bringing in the guys I just mentioned. So absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And so I'm going to go to the chat. Keon says, I want to, but no. Lava says, we don't want him. Miss Bim says, yes. Derek say yes. Lee 615 said, release Wood, trade a 2023 second, 2024 second, conditional second. Let's see. Have a bad track record with previously elite receivers. Rocky Yit. Oh, Miss Mim says no. Okay, very much so. Oilerstruck. Al says no to D-Hop. Too old. Too much money. Let's see. There's a kid brought me down to reality. I'm sad. Let's see. Brandon says no. So Bob still like get to your why yet. But you know what? My answer, there is one number that I need everybody to understand, and I think you're going to know where I'm going with this. And that number is 31. 31. Why? That's how old DeAndre Hopkins is going to be when he takes the field week 1 in 2023. He will be 31 years old. Now, we all know that dreaded number for any football player, especially a wide receiver or running back, any skill player, corners or anything, the number is 30. You don't want guys over the age of 30 because they tend to deteriorate and they tend to wear down. So with that going on, the answer for me is no as well. I mean, again, extremely talented. However, he has had a couple of down years the last couple of years. Julio did too, and we thought that was a good idea. Like myself, and I want to say myself and Mr. Titan, we did the show last year. I believe it was me, Mr. Titan, Ken, and Titan Upload. Ken and Titan Upload were like, no. Me and Mr. Titan wanted Julio. Obviously, me and Mr. Titan were kind of wrong on that one. So, I would say no to DeAndre Hopkins. And I remember somebody mentioned something earlier, and hello to the missus of Titans and Truth, the lovely Mrs. Titans and Truth. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for a great year. I will acknowledge that. But somebody asked me earlier saying, did I agree with going with a wide receiver over offensive line? That depends on what happens in free agency. I think offensive line is the number one need at this very moment. Although I would definitely love one of these wide receivers, whether it be Jordan Addison, Jalen Hyatt. Quentin Johnston, I think, is a big body receiver. Ken, I know you would know more about Quentin Johnston, and we're definitely going to talk about him closer to the draft. But we need speed. I definitely agree, but you also need offensive line help. Now, I would go wide receiver only if Andre Dillard is signed to the Tennessee Titans, and that's not a guarantee that that's going to work. It could, but he's been on the bench in Philly. So that, maybe a new fresh, scenery could be a pretty good spot for a Andre Dillard. But I will ask you, Ken, before we do get ready to wrap this show up, right now, put your GM hat on. Your GM of the Titans, which I think a lot of us have lobbied for you, offensive line or wide receiver in round one?
Well, let me give you some history first before I answer your question.
Please do.
Taylor Lewan was drafted at number 11. We have the
Yep.
11th pick in the draft. Jack Conklin, I believe, was a top 10 pick.
Number 8.
Number 8. Both of those guys turned into all-pro tackles. Okay. A.J. Brown was drafted in the second round.
Yep.
Turned into all-pro wide receiver, right? You can get all-pro wide receivers in the second round, in the third round. Okay. You're not finding normally all-pro tackles in the later rounds. That's what history tells us. So I would go with my 11th pick, the best offensive lineman available. Hopefully that's a left tackle. That would be my first primary function to fix the offensive line. Because if your offensive line isn't fixed, it doesn't matter what you got outside. It doesn't matter what you got at running back. It doesn't matter what you have at quarterback. And we see that right now. You still got a prime running back in Derrick Henry, and he has nowhere to run with the football. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback. Like Vrabel said in the press conference, offensive line got a quarterback hurt. And that's what happened. The offensive line got a quarterback hurt. So I would go offensive line number 11, and then whatever else you need, second, third round, if there's a great wide receiver or a good wide receiver that you think can turn into an A.J. Brown or a Stephon Diggs or, a Justin Jefferson, then you go get that guy. But I'm going offensive line at number 11.
I could go with that. Either Peter Stroyansky or Paris Johnson. Of course, I got to take a look at their tape. Both of those guys look like they could start day one at left tackle. And then maybe later in the third or fourth round, I like that kid out of Michigan at center. I think could plug in and start right away as well. Maybe you take that second round pick, try to find a way to go back into the first round. If in the 20s, Addison and like Jalen Hyatt are there, then yeah, I trade back up and see if I can get one of those guys. Maybe one of those guys in the second round, like you said. I believe there's a guy in SMU that I think is a pretty good player as well. I believe his last name is Rice, if I'm not mistaken, down there. But, Clay's asking about Tannehill. Think he'll be cut? I don't know. That is a good – we don't know what is – again, like I said on my post-game show a couple of days ago, we are going into some dark times, some very unknown waters. We have no idea what Amy Adams-Strunk is thinking right now. We don't know which direction this team is about to go. Now, a lot of people have really thrown out the word retool/reload or rebuild. And again, this is my thought. And Ken, I want to get yours too. This is how I would do it. Defensively, now, it doesn't have to be one or the other. People say, well, need to rebuild. They're talking about tearing down the entire team. A lot of people thinking, well, if you're going to go rebuild, you're going to get rid of Tannehill and Henry. You might as well get rid of Byard and Simmons, not let them come back. This is what I'm doing. I am not touching the defense very much. The defense will mostly come back as is. I will retool the defense. I will reload the defense. Big Jeff would be my top priority. Get that dude re-signed. Now, again, I know there's going to be some of y'all that says, well, he don't want to be here. He don't want to be here. He want to sit out. I'm like, no. If I'm Big Jeff, I would sit out too. Get your paper, brother. Get your paper. You deserve it. You get Big Jeff re-signed. Kevin Byard stays exactly where he is. I've heard some people talk about maybe trading Kevin Byard. I'm thinking you got to be outside your mind. Ain't no way the Mayor of Murfreesboro is going anywhere on my team. 31 is going to be here. You get David Long back. Now, the thing that I would do, maybe see about another middle linebacker that could possibly go with David Long, or could be a depth piece behind him and Monty Rice. Dr. Gibby, I think, did some good. He does deserve some more snaps. I think we might need to find ourselves another legit corner at some point. Not that I don't believe in Fulton, but Fulton has had a couple of injury-riddled years, and I think McCreary belongs on the inside, and you have another guy on the outside that can cover. Somebody long, somebody at least 6 feet tall to do that. Other than that, maybe get a couple of depth pieces. I'm not messing with the defense very much. Reload. Offensively, I might consider tearing it down and rebuild on the offensive side of the ball. Now, that depends on what direction they want to go. Vrabel says they want to get faster. You start with the offensive line, like Ken said. Start with the offensive line, you're probably going to have at least 3 new starters on the offensive line. Depending on what happens with Nate Davis, Nate being injured, you're probably going to be able to maybe get him at a better deal. And Nicholas Petit-Ferreira had his ups and downs. I think was still pretty solid for the most part. He still has some things to work on. He was a rookie. But I would take a look at possibly rebuilding the offense. It's time for a different philosophy. It's time for a more pass-centric philosophy with a running game to complement that. And so, that begs the question. Would I run it back with Tannehill, or do I maybe go trade for Aaron Rodgers, or do maybe I go with Malik and Dobbs, let them battle it out, and then maybe next year we get our franchise quarterback? Now, that's going to be the key to all of this. A lot of people will say, well, if you get rid of Tannehill, you might as well get rid of Derrick Henry, or vice versa. I would not be surprised if either one of those guys is gone before this next season. Wouldn't like it. I would probably be more shocked if Derrick Henry ever got traded or released over Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill, I probably wouldn't be that surprised, but it would be very interesting to see what direction they go. Derrick Henry, on the other hand, I'd probably be a little bit more shocked, to be honest. But again, I think you got to get some speed on the outside. You got to get better offensive line help. And I know a lot of people will think, get an offensive lineman that's good at run blocking. In my experience, Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. Formerly a guy that played football, it is much easier to learn how to run block than it is to pass block. When you're run blocking, you just come out of your stance, you fire out low, you get under the defensive lineman's pads, and you drive. You drive. Pass blocking, you got to have, number one, great footwork. You got to be able to have your head on the swivel to pick up blitzes, to pick up twists, and you got to be able to have that good kick step when you drop him, when you're backing out to cut to engage a pass rusher that's coming. Much more difficult to pass block than it is to run block, in my opinion. Ken, am I wrong to say I would rebuild the offense, reload the defense?
No, I think you're pretty much spot on. The defense is in solid shape. You got some issues at linebacker. Defensive line is set. You bring Simmons back. Hopefully, you bring Tierre Tort back. Mario Edwards, I like to see him return. Walker, I like to see those guys return along the defensive front. You got questions at linebacker. I would expect Dupree to get cut. I would expect Cunningham probably to get released. Harold Landry's coming back from a significant knee injury. Um, he he won't be the same Harold Landry that left us with 18 sacks. He won't be that guy when he comes back. He may eventually get back to being that guy, but he may have the type of production of a Bud Dupree, where he plays 4 games and maybe gets nicked up and has to sit out a couple of games. Plays 2 or 3 games, gets nicked up, has to sit out. Don't expect 17 games from Harold Landry next year. Don't expect him to play 90% of the snaps. So you're going to need some help at linebacker, inside linebacker. Do you bring back Dylan Cole? Can Monty Rice take the next step to becoming a legitimate starter? How much is David Long going to demand as far as money? You know, he cost himself some money, obviously, by missing the last 6 or 7 games of the year. So his price tag came down. How much did his price tag come down? But the big question that everybody mentioned, you mentioned Ryan Tannehill. You can't let Ryan Tannehill go if you don't have someone better to replace him with. So of the quarterbacks on the market, who is really better than Ryan Tannehill? Well, people say Aaron Rodgers is better, but is he really? Is he really? They have the same resume since 2019. They've been in the same amount of playoff games. They have the same results. Aaron Rodgers has lost the last 3 big games at home in Lambeau Field to Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Tom Brady. He hasn't won the big game. And he's had an offensive coach in Matt LaFleur. He's had the luxury of playing at home in Lambeau Field. And he hasn't gotten it done in 12 years, has he not taken his team to the Super Bowl. So is he really better than Ryan Tannehill? Maybe not.
I think on paper, Rodgers is better.
They play on grass.
You do bring up a very valid point.
They don't play on paper. They play on grass.
That's true. That is true. And again, like you said, hasn't won in the playoffs in quite some time. He's got 1 Super Bowl, but that was so long ago.
Yeah, and then you look at Derek Carr. Derek Carr is not more accomplished than Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill has had way more accomplishments than Derek Carr. I have no confidence in Derek Carr that his first big game that he wins will be the first big game he's won in his career. Okay, he hasn't won a big game since he was at Fresno State. And I don't know how many big games he won in Fresno State. Daniel Jones may be a free agent. Do you really want Danny Dimes as your quarterback? We saw Gardner Minshew when he came in for Jalen Hurts the last 2 weeks. He's not a starter in the NFL. Who else is out there? There's nobody else out there.
Baker Mayfield, not very good. I would say no to that.
No.
I'm with you on that. I think Tannehill probably does have to return unless the Titans just take the ultimate gamble and try to trade up and get Bryce Young and CJ Stroud if they just happen to fall in love. But then again, maybe that might be a year too early to look at a quarterback. Maybe next year might be the better time to look at a quarterback. I could definitely see that. Eventually, we're going to have to do it. Eventually, it's time for us to drop the quarterback high. We're going to have to. But before we do get out, now, he did bring up another guy. He is a huge fan of Georgia offensive lineman tackle Broderick Jones, who just won a national championship. And I know Teron Davenport, TD, has always told me, do not blacklist a school because of one unsuccessful pick. But I have to be honest in my heart. I am terrified of picking Georgia offensive linemen now. I am. Isaiah Wilson has scarred me for life. I cannot trust any Georgia offensive lineman ever again right now. Now, maybe Broderick Jones proves us wrong. And I don't know how Andrew Thomas is doing in New York. I know Ken, you're about to bring up something, but I'm nervous. Ken, go ahead. I knew you was about to bring up something.
I have a question. Was Kirby Smart the head coach of Isaiah Wilson? I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
I want to say yes.
Okay. So my question, if I'm the Tennessee Titans, is because they talk to college coaches, right? They get intel on these players about what they are, who they are, and things of that nature. You know, they do all of those background checks. What I want to know is, did Kirby Smart lie to me about Isaiah Wilson? Because if Kirby Smart lied to, I don't know if he did or not. I'm just asking. If he lied to me about the characteristics of Isaiah Wilson, then it makes it very difficult for me to trust him to tell me about any of his players coming from Georgia. You see what I'm saying? So that means
agree.
I want to be able to trust the coach. Now, of course, coaches are going to stand up for their players, but I expect you to say, hey, you know what? These are his positives, but there is a red flag here, right?
Yeah.
That you may want to be concerned about.
You want to have vet,
exactly. So I want to know that I can trust Kirby Smart to give me the information. And I just have to go back to what happened with the whole Isaiah Wilson thing. Now, if he said, hey, there's a couple of red flags you may want to be aware of, and if John Robinson ignored those red flags and drafted him anyway, then that's on him. So that's just a couple of things when you're talking to head coaches as executives, you want to make sure that those coaches are giving you the right information about whoever it is.
I agree. And that's why I am a bit nervous when it comes to that, because it's like, you're right. You have that, you know, Quay Walker, of course, is picked from Georgia. He had that whole thing in the game with Detroit, pushing the medical staffer out of the way, got himself ejected. So, I mean, I'm not saying that has anything to do with that, but I mean, you got to know, as a general manager, you got to be a good judge of character. You got to think, this guy could come in and actually help my team and will not hurt. And we always hear Vrabel talk about what? Don't do dumb stuff to hurt the football team. You know you got to have a guy that is not going to do dumb stuff to hurt the football team. And Broderick Jones might be a great player, could be a good tackle. I'm going to do my studying on him, of course, because he's one of the top linemen. But I'm going to be very cautious. Not really because of him, but because of the program. And that's what I'm the most nervous about. So we're about to get ready to wrap things up tonight. I'm trying to think if there was any news that I've forgotten or missed from the Titans so far. I don't think I've missed anything yet. But truth of the matter is, we're into some unknown waters. We got the GM search going on. Eventually, we're going to be looking for an offensive coordinator, a new offensive line coach. Again, I would get on my hands and knees and beg Mike Munchak to come back home. Let's mend the fences. Let's reconcile. You're in our Ring of Honor. You're a Hall of Famer. Come on home. We need you because he's a good offensive line coach. And has always been. But
is he still in Pittsburgh?
I'm sorry?
Is he still in Pittsburgh?
No, I think he took a year off. He was in Denver last, but I think he took a year off.
Okay.
So, Ken, before we get out of here, is anything you got coming up ESPN wise, or where can people find you? And again, I appreciate you definitely coming on. Anything you got coming up?
Yeah, guys, I definitely go subscribe to my channel at Kmore Sports. We had a big show last night breaking down the Todd Downing firing, so go check it out. Retweet it, take a look at it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll have shows throughout the off season as news breaks on the Titans, in the general manager search, in the offensive coordinator search. We'll also start doing some college football interviews with some coaches from around the SWAC. Bubba McDowell at Prairie View, Hugh Jackson at Grambling, Fred McNair, the brother of Steve McNair, who's the head coach at Alcorn State. So we'll start those in those shows probably after the Super Bowl is when we'll start those shows. So so a lot of stuff coming up on K More Sports. So make sure you guys go subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at K More Sports and also on YouTube at K More Sports, Instagram at Ken More Sports, and then follow me on Facebook as well. Just simply Ken More on Facebook.
Absolutely. And definitely glad you did the things you do. And there's another name that I would be very interested in, at least trying to get him back in the football rank, in the NFL ranks. Hugh Jackson would be, I would like Hugh Jackson, but I know he would probably will want to be head coach again at some point. I definitely thought Hugh Jackson should have gotten much more of a shot here because I believe he interviewed for the offensive coordinator position once, or might have been looked at as a possible head coaching candidate. They really should have gave him more of an opportunity, in my honest opinion. But everybody, I think that's gonna just about do it for today's show. Again, to my friend Crystal Hayward, happy birthday to you. I got a party I'm gonna be turning up this weekend. I got a couple of parties I gotta go to. I gotta shout out my Sigma brothers, Blue Phi to my Sigma brothers, as we had our Founders Day this past week, and then of course shout out to any Zetas that might be listening. I know their Founders Day is coming up, so we definitely got that going on. Divine Nine time this month, so a lot of things are gonna be happening. But like Ken, I'm not going anywhere either. I got quite a bit of stuff coming up. Probably not going to do any shows until maybe around the Super Bowl. Might take a breather unless we get some breaking news as far as anything with the GM search, OC search, anything Titans wise. Of course, we'll break that. Probably going to do something maybe about the Super Bowl. Of course, if something interesting happens in the playoffs, maybe I'll do a quick short about that as well. But I think today was a good show. I appreciate you, Ken, for being a guest on. Thank you to everybody, to Loudman 07. Definitely shout out to everybody. And I definitely do thank you for tuning in to TNT Tonight. For Ken Moore, I am Blue Enforcer, a.k.a. The Truth. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, smash that like button, and also to Ken Moore's channel, definitely go subscribe, hit that bell, and hit all so you get all the notifications when any shows come out, whether he's got a show, I got a show. Shout out to Tennessee Titans Weekly, Facts No Paper, Titan Upload, the Power Hour, everybody. We're going to bring you the best. We're a tight-knit family. And so this is where you get your best content. So from the Man Hour Radio Network, I'm your man, Blue Enforcer. We going to simply tighten up because that's all we know how to do. Good night, y'all.